John's staged model of reflection requires the reflective practitioner then, in order to make the process profound, to engage both reflexively and reflectively with the content of reflection. And most often this is done through writing, through keeping a journal. So the reflective practitioner needs to write reflexively and write reflectively. Now what we need to do is consider the difference between reflexivity and reflectivity. First of all, reflexive writing. Well, the key point to identify, to differentiate reflexive writing from reflective writing is that reflexive writing will use the first person in terms of writing. In other words, you'll be writing I rather than the third person where you'll be talking about the teacher or the researcher. So as a reflective practitioner using John's staged model, you need to write reflexively. And that means you need to develop a style of writing that uses personal experiences and relates incidents from a very personal perspective using I statements. Now, there can of course be a danger here of being too personal in terms of the reflection. So the reflective practitioner needs to develop approaches which are personal and reflexive, but not too personal. And reflexive writing, therefore, is a personal response to experiences and events that we have in the classroom. And as a personal response, they can be very immediate reactions to what we experience. And some might say, therefore, as immediate reactions, they're only surface considerations. However, if we are writing reflexively over time, there is an opportunity for us to take these surface reflections and add some depth to them. And so the aim of reflexive writing is about cataloguing from a personal point of view, and therefore a subjective point of view, the experiences that we're having. Now, some might say that a subjective response as reflection can actually be very skewed and one-sided, perhaps polarized around particular perspectives. But this is the attribute of reflexive writing. It's okay for it to be subjective. It is indeed your personal response. And as a personal response, reflexive writing provides the foundation for more academic, perhaps some might say more professional writing. It's a good foundation because it provides a focus point for the reflective practitioner. In contrast, reflective writing is perhaps more formal. And for most people, reflective writing at first will feel very strange to undertake because it's not a usual way of writing. The formality that it has in relation to writing about feelings and writing about actions is from an impersonal perspective, which is aimed at helping us be more objective about what our experience is, but in terms of writing is very difficult to get right. And therefore reflective writing takes practice to do well, in contrast to reflexive writing, which is very easy to undertake. And what we need to do in terms of reflective writing is to practice using different models, different approaches in terms of that writing, and to find the one style which works for us best. And reflective writing then is much more academic than reflexive writing, which is very personal. And as academic writing, it's not a diary, and it's not an email to a friend, which reflexive writing could be. Reflective writing is far more formal, and it's not just about relating events, but it's about reflecting analysing and evaluating those events, and therefore and doing that through a formal process of thinking. And in this way, reflective writing is considered an exploration of the experience rather than an understanding of our response to that experience. And as an exploration, what we're doing is looking at our own role within that experience. And so, reflective writing, being academic, being formal, it should not have an informal style. We shouldn't fall into complaining or worrying about things. And some people would say that reflective writing should be formal to the extent that there should be an introduction and a conclusion to the writing, in contrast to reflexive writing, which, being very immediate, would not necessarily have an introduction or a conclusion. And of course, reflective writing, being academic and being analytical, therefore, and evaluative, could include references to literature or references to conversations that we're having with other professionals. And in this sense, reflective writing has to be linked very clearly back to the literature, back to the theoretical understanding around teaching and learning. And it should show, therefore, that we've actually learned from the process. Reflexive writing is not about learning, it's about understanding. Reflective writing gives us a chance, an opportunity to analyze and evaluate, and therefore develop understanding, and so develop new perspectives. And in this way, we're learning throughout the process.